Hello, everyone. I'm grateful and honored to be on this Zoom. Sweet Mina with Athletes for Hope put it together, honoring Tyler Hilinski. And it happens to be 7 years today that we lost him. And I have tried to navigate this path with grace but sometimes I just tell myself, you don't have to do it perfectly, right? You don't have to do it the way you think you should be doing it. I've embraced helping others, and that helps me too. I still feel like I'm living in a dream that I'm going to close my eyes and open them up, and there he's going to be, and that's just not going to happen. And so I'm grateful for the people that are on this journey with me. I wish you weren't. I absolutely wish you weren't. But somehow sharing this path together, I think keeps us breathing, and moving. And all of our kids who we lost to suicide were special, special people. And sadly, they got sick, and we didn't realize that. And I couldn't save Tyler. And I think that's the thing that hurts me so much is that as a mom, and you understand this, parents, you would do anything to protect your child, anything. You give your own life to have your child keep living. And the fact that I didn't know he was struggling, that he didn't tell anybody, it just sort of adds this extra layer of pain. And so with our Tyler Talks, and we go around the country, we've done over 350 of them. The thing we try to emphasize, and it's through the lens of a parent, is that they all matter so much, and that them leaving will just tear their family apart. We're still torn apart. Tyler's brothers, Kelly and Ryan, they're sort of digging themselves out of, the heavy, heavy grief. I think we're always going to live near each other, or maybe I'll live in the same house. I don't know, but that's how we get strength. And so I know that Tyler's number was 3. And Mina and I talked about, if we do the Zoom, everybody could come on and share 3 things. And it could be more, honestly, or it could be less, about how they navigate this life of pain and grief, and how when they're in these dark places, what they reach for, what they search for to help them with their mental health struggles. So I'll start it off. The first thing is I tell myself that my love for Tyler is still growing every single day. And even though I lost him 7 years ago, I love that kid more today than I did then. And so I'm using that love to keep pushing me forward. My second thing is our Tyler Talks. That helps us because I get to say Tyler's name, I don't know, 20 times, maybe even more than that during the talk. And it feels like he's still with me in my heart and helping me, guide this path that we're on. And the third thing, well, now I have to do 4. And the third thing would be my running, because I don't, it's nothing to do with weight or anything like that. It's just to help me breathe. And then the fourth thing would be all the people that are on the Zoom. They mean so much to me, and I am so sorry that their babies are gone, but somehow we'll get through this together. The pain will never go away. We just start learning how to live with it, and we'll see our babies again too. I know that. So thank you, Mina.
Thank you. In the chat, I did put the order, but I can just go and then I'll pass it to Donna. Thank you, Kim, for sharing and for your continuous work within this space. Personally, you inspire me. So thank you. So on my darkest days, um, the number one thing that helps is daring to reach out for help to someone who I trust. 2, time in nature, either by a creek, walking in the forest, or bathing in the ocean, anything surrounding nature. And then 3, and it's an in progress point, it's returning to my body and learning or relearning to trust my body as a student athlete, elite athlete. If my mind, body, soul became so disconnected, and we all experience our own darkest times, but that disconnect has really affected me. And so relearning to trust my body through, for instance, the breath, and finding people within that space as well. Looking to Mina here. And so with that, I do want to pass it to Donna.
And I've been trying to come up with 3 things that actually work. Still navigating what to do on those darkest days. I don't know if I'll ever have a perfect method. But I have noticed that first thing I do is I get rid of my phone for that day. The darkest day is truly the day we lost her. And
Yeah.
second only to that is the day we buried her. So, the days in between, they're not full days of darkness, but those days are pretty bad. Drop the phone for sure. So many people reach out in support on those days, which is great, but I need the next day to look at them. I think you all, the ones that know me, we live on 150 acres. Most of it's wooded. We have a 2.5 mile trail up and down. It's pretty rigorous to get through it. And I've got 1.5 dogs. I have a dog and my son has a dog, and I often take them both with me. But that is a constant. That takes me into quiet. That takes me with dogs, which my dog was delivered from Morgan directly to me. I'm convinced of that. She knew I needed something, and he arrived on my lap, like literally just very unexpected. And so I always look at him and I think, I thank Morgan for that, because he got me through the darkest days. So yeah, physical activity. That day also coincidentally falls on the same day that we started our organization, Morgan's Message. So we have an annual 9 for 9 that we started the very first year. And so part of that day, I have to come up with something, and it is so hard because I don't want to do anything, but I have to come up with something connected to the number 9, whether it's 9 minutes of yoga, breathing, whatever. So that fills that day. But probably the most important thing I do is I don't worry about doing something. Sometimes it helps to reorganize something that I've been putting off, because it gives me some sort of sense that I have control over something. Whether it's a closet and I get rid of my clothes and it's nice and clean again, it's something that no one else contributed to, but I have control over that. So I don't know if I've listed 1, 2, 3 because I'm still trying to figure it out, but something like that.
It's beautiful, actually. Love it.
Do we just want to go naturally? If I'm looking at Mariana, I'm looking at Joy, we can go naturally too, or in the chat, we did put an example order. If you want to go, Bridget.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go. Um, I I'm sort of kind of like Donna. I think my darkest day is always April 13th, because that's the day we lost Sarah. And it is it's my day that I kind of have to go in. I have to go inward and be in my own thoughts. And um, the phone is it's too hard for me to look at all those messages. Um, and my special place that I go to is the beach, and we actually call it Sarah's Beach. And it's special for all of my whole family, for Scott and her 2 sisters. We all refer to it as Sarah's Beach. It's where we go to feel close to her. So I feel very drawn to that when I want to be close to her, or if I'm just really in a dark place. And there's something about I feel close to her there, but I also, there's something to me very healing about the waves and hearing them and seeing nature. Nothing makes me happier than when I see a dolphin at the beach. I just always feel like it's Sarah's little wink at me. And so, yeah, I think those are my biggest things. And um, breath work is something that's new to me, but I'm leaning more and more into it. When um, I had anxiety has become and panic has become a part of my grieving that I never really experienced much before. So when I have that intense anxiety or panic, breath is a big thing for me to kind of focus in on and bring myself down into the present and hopefully out of the anxiety. So I would say those are I think I listed 3 things. Yeah.
Water is healing somehow. I totally agree with you. I don't know. I'm looking right, less than a football field to the lake that we're on. And sometimes I feel like I'm on a houseboat, once you get inside the house, you don't see anybody else except for the houses across the lake. So I totally understand water and
Yeah.
having a healing effect. It's beautiful.
Bridget, I don't even know if you and I have talked about this, but like it's funny, the panic and anxiety that's like hit me really hard too. Like I never had that before.
Ditto.
Yeah.
My blood pressure, I mean, I know you know this, I'm on blood pressure medication because my blood pressure went like through the roof after Katie died. And that's something I'm really trying to work on. Like I don't know what that is. I don't know if it is going back to that, first phone call that you got and that like I never hyperventilated in my life like that. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
so that's hard. So things that I do try to do, I journaled a lot the first 2 years. I've cut back a little bit this year only because I've been busier with my grandson, but I journaled a lot in a journal. I wrote a lot down. That helped get some of that out. I walk all the time. Like that's my biggest thing too, getting out in the fresh air, the sunlight, the nature. I also, so many similarities with the 4 of us. I also like Donna, Katie, like literally brought us a dog. Same thing. Like her dog that she got into the dorm somehow snuck in and became our dog. So I know it was like a whole thing. So walking the dog is big for me. And while I do that, I pray a lot. So my faith is a big part. It's come in huge the last almost 3 years. So I pray a lot. And on those walks, I talk to Katie a lot. That's where I talk to her as well. And we have conversations mostly one way, but sometimes I also get a wink, the butterfly, the sign, the hummingbird, something that like literally is right in front of my face and I know she's there. I live for those moments, those little God incidences, I call them, or the winks. That's probably the most, but all the other things, what you guys are talking about, the breath work, the meditation, finding quiet time, but also like Kim, like sometimes I'm a busy girl and I need to be busy. That's also my nature. It keeps me going. And so I feel everybody. I'm kind of like dittoing all of you in everything. I think we're all very similar in a lot of ways, how we've, dealt and all creating foundations to honor our kids. That's a beautiful thing. So I love you all. Thank you.
Love you.
Back at you.
Hi, everybody.
Chloe.
Hi, Kim. For those of you that might not know, I work with Kim at Hilinski's Hope. And I lost my dad 16 years ago next week to suicide. And because I'm the child, I think, my grieving might look a little bit different than your guys's. And I appreciate you guys all sharing because it's just such a crappy club to be in. But it's been helpful to be around people that get it. I think, for me, I was 13 when he passed, and my siblings are all older than me. So a big thing that I do around hard days is I ask for stories from them. I didn't get to see, him as an adult and have those conversations that they got to have with him. So yeah, it's cool because my older siblings were 29 and 30, I want to say, when he passed. So they have a much different lens that they see him through than I do. And last year, actually, my brother Dave found a box of cassettes that he would send them when he was stationed overseas. And they were recorded bedtime stories for all of us.
Oh.
And so yeah, it's been cool to hear arguably new things that I haven't either heard in 20 years or never heard because they were his. So yeah, I think a lot of my coping is trying to find like the specks of him that I didn't get to know and get to know him more, even though he's been gone a while. I feel really lucky to have older siblings that allow me to do that. And then also, and this feels like so silly in retrospect, but growing up, he would talk about how he used to live in Pasadena. And I live in LA, like a stone's throw from Pasadena now. I didn't know that Pasadena was here until I moved here. Like, I guess I had never looked at a map. So it's been really cool. My sister has a lot of old photos, and on the back it'll say like, Rose Bowl 1981 or, Malibu 1986. So one thing that I've been doing a lot lately in the last couple of years to cope is go to those spots, and it just helps me to feel connected to his life and what he was doing at my age. And yeah, so I think, watching Kim share Tyler's story has been huge. I've been with Hilinski's for about 5 years now, and watching her be purposefully so vulnerable has been such an inspiration and has definitely led me to share more. And I'm sure, as all of you know, when you do that, people respond and they reach out, and people that are struggling get help. And it's been really cool to see that, especially the last 5 years. But yeah, I just appreciate you guys sharing your pieces today.
Love you, Chloe. Thank you.
Love you too.
Hi, all. So Chloe, interesting thing is I grew up behind the Rose Bowl in 1980. So I was probably around when your dad was
You're
hanging
practically
out at the Rose
neighbors.
Bowl. My name is Joy, and I haven't met all of you, but I am a former elite gymnast that left home when I was 11 to pursue my Olympic dream. And actually, Mariana was one of my teammates when I think I was like 13. But I don't know what it's like to lose a person. So my grief looks different from you guys, but thank you so much for your bravery and sharing your story. My heart really goes out to all of you. For me, I went through fear-based coaching, and so anxiety was always high as a little girl. I never knew that. And I think also being a woman of color, we're very much taught to stay silent. So for me, anything of like advocating for myself felt like talking back. So what I noticed very later on, now in my adulthood, when I start to cry, I can't talk, and I feel it in my throat first. And so for me, when that happens, kind of like what all you women share, breath is a huge thing because I do not know how to breathe. And for the longest time in my anxiety, especially when I was performing, I would hold my breath. So I am still learning how to breathe through things. Usually when I go through high anxiety, I talk really fast because I'm not taking a breath. And I usually will need somebody to tell me, like, take a breath, because I still can't clue it into my body. So breath has been a really huge thing that I've been exploring. Another thing is community. Um, I don't have a large community that I go to. It's not something that I've been taught either with culture or even being a child athlete, because we were trained to be silent. So that is really a new thing for me as well. And so I have had a sweet community of people that is small and intimate, but it really has to correlate with safety. And so if I feel safe and seen, then it is easier to share my story. So if I don't feel seen, because for the longest time I didn't feel seen, usually everything's fine and perfect. And as athletes, we're really trained to like compartmentalize our feelings. And so for me, what I've realized with my emotions, I don't feel my emotions on a scale. I'm either at a 0, and from 0 to 9 feels like a 0, and then from 10 above feels astronomical. So anything in between, I can't decipher. So my community has been a really huge thing to lean on. Last year, me and my cousin, we started our own podcast, and it was the first time we shared with each other. She was also a former gymnast that left home. We went through the same training with the same coaches, and we never shared our story with each other until 30 years later. And it was the first time that we actually told each other our story during this podcast. And what naturally happened was, by sharing our story, a whole lot of things came up, and it was sort of the start of my process of healing, which brought me to AMHA and these amazing people that I am seeing right now. And so I think language was a huge thing for me to find healing in, because I didn't have language back then. Therapy was a huge thing that I started last year, and to have language brought so much more healing, because now I can articulate, oh my God, that's what it is, or that's what I feel. So I think those were the 3 things that really shifted my healing journey.
They're powerful things. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you all for sharing. I haven't lost someone in this way, but I am a former collegiate athlete, and I was an athlete at the time when we lost Tyler. So I remember his story very clearly. And that was kind of something that I think rocked me to my core and a lot of my teammates and peers. And I played softball. We weren't even obviously playing football or another sport like that. But I really suffered from severe anxiety and panic attacks, which I never experienced. So when you guys are talking about that, I understand, because it's very scary to have that kind of come on out of nowhere and not know how to deal with it. And as athletes, I don't think you're really taught how to deal with it and how to breathe. It's very like opposite of our nature of keeping moving and being in a fast-paced routine, to slow down and just sit with your thoughts and your breath. So things I had to actually Google and teach myself were how to breathe. So I started doing guided meditations. I remember on the floor of my room my sophomore year in college. I started journaling. I was very lucky to have a sister who also went through depression and anxiety, and she sent me a journal and said this is something that helped her a lot. So that's what got me into journaling. And then accepting help from, I luckily had one teammate who's now my best friend, who would sit with me when I would have panic attacks outside a game, who would come pick me up for breakfast and take me outside when she knew I was just in my room for too long. And I didn't even know I had been in there for that long. So I was very lucky to have people like that were looking out for me. And then eventually also learning to ask for help. So I remember one time having a major panic attack, and you kind of start going into psychosis. You don't like, your brain is incredible what it can do, and also very terrifying. So I thought I was dying alone in my room. In college, my roommates were sleeping. It was like 4 a.m. So I had my siblings that are on the East Coast. And so I remember like having their number pulled up, and I was like so afraid to call them. But I eventually did, and just like speaking to someone that was there, and then like being in person with someone a few hours later helped so much to know like I'm actually here on earth and grounded. So being able to kind of take away the shame of asking for help was something that was huge for me. And then fast forward now, in a much better place, but I've noticed movement is something I have to do every single day. I think being part of athlete, you get a lot of therapy from moving. So whether it's walking or trying new sports or classes, that's just something that improves my mental health tremendously. And then the other thing is just the work I do. We're very lucky at the Kevin Love Fund that this is something we teach. So this conversation is what I get to have every single day with strangers around the world, which is interesting on Zoom, but you can really connect with people that way, which is really incredible. So it just continues to motivate me when I hear all of your stories. And on the days I kind of want to shut down and not really open up, to push myself to actually be very vulnerable because someone else in the room might need it. And then lastly, the beach. I've always found that to be healing. So I'm luckily now in San Diego and I can drive 15 minutes to the beach. So if I'm having a tough time, I'll just go sit on the sand. But yeah, I just want to thank you guys. You guys are one of the reasons that I wanted to come into this line of work. I just remember hearing so many stories and talking to peers who are really struggling and knowing that athletes just really need this. So I'm just sending so much love to all the parents in the room and everyone that's lost someone. Thank you so much for the work you're doing.
Thank you, Lucia. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mariana, and I feel like Joy kind of introduced part of my story. First and foremost, I want to thank you for allowing me into this space, and I'm sending so much love to all of you and allowing us to be a part of this. And so, yes, I was an elite gymnast, a national team member in the late 90s, and yeah, a part of the fear-based coaching, luckily pre-Larry Nassar days. I suffered from anxiety, depression, and felt like I was on utterly alone because there were no mental health resources at that time. And I had coaches that were really tough. It was a toxic environment. I am just now, very similar to what Joy said. She and her cousin reached out and said, we're starting this podcast. And just like them, I had never shared my story. I still haven't gone on the podcast yet because even 30 years later, it's scary to open up those feelings and talk about the journey and all the things that happened. But I got into therapy. Laura is a licensed social worker. She recommended I get into trauma therapy. And I said, trauma therapy? What do I need that for? But it's been a journey over the past, I guess the past year. I've learned a lot about myself. Similar to what Lucia said, I had panic attacks in college. At that time, I didn't know what a panic attack was. I thought I was having a heart attack. I went to student health. Again, what has led me to this group and kind of this community is I just want to make sure that student athletes have resources, parents have resources, athletes have resources so that they don't go through or feel what I went through because I didn't have anyone to talk to. Luckily, I did have a coach in college that was there for me. And so in that darkness and in that aloneness, I felt like he was handing me a life raft. So I'm just so grateful for that. And I guess that's what is kind of driving me to this community. So what my 3 things are, I would have to say is community and motivation to just make sure other people do have resources and information. And then I guess faith is a part of it. Walking the dog, there are so many similarities to what everybody said. Getting in nature, walking the dog. I've pursued a career in nonprofit. So when I'm feeling down about myself or just depression, I want to get out of my head and think about other people and helping other people. And so I think that's what led me to kind of the nonprofit career and just serving others. And I don't know if that was three things, but anyway, it's been a journey. It's ongoing. It's 30 years later, and now I'm a parent. And I think that's what is most motivating to me is just, making sure that cycle doesn't continue. And so thank you for allowing me to be a part of this and helping to honor your kids. And I'm really glad to be a part of this community. So thanks.
Hey guys, my name is Rohan. Really thankful to be in this, this space with everybody. I actually was maybe on like the opposite end of it. I've had like a very close person to me, try to commit suicide, and I ended up being the one stopping them, just being like right there at the right time. And when that happened, I actually was it happened while I was about to go play. I had my phone on me, I picked it up, kind of walked them through it, and then I ended up going to play like nothing happened and played a good game, but like in my brain, like, something really traumatic happened, something good happened. So ever since then, like, that's always been something I've always held inside a lot. And that happened to me like 15, 16 years old. So kind of had to grow up a little bit faster. And so kind of going out like my whole collegiate career, I would just be having like major panic attacks. I couldn't sleep at night, drinking heavy, smoking heavy, just doing a whole bunch of stuff. And it came to the point where, I had some close calls where, but luckily I had some friends and family just kind of be like, hey, like, we can see like you're not okay, and kind of just opening up. But that's one of the reasons why, I created Usher, because, being like a minority and a male, um, those things in terms of like speaking upon like your feelings and stuff like that. Like, for example, like my own father has not even spoke to his dad about opening things up since the age of 40, right? And so I'm at the age of 28, and I've only been able to open up till then, right? So not knowing how to open up, how to ask for help, being in that environment, kind of led to like an inward journey to like, okay, how can I maybe find that answer within myself? And so just exploring how like yoga, breathwork, meditation together kind of just levels out your nervous system, and it helps me. Like I always tell people, even when I do this for myself, like I can never change what has been said to you, what has been done to you, what you've seen, but more so break off that emotional change that's linked to that incident. So for me, when I do these type of things, it makes a clear distinction in my brain. Like I'm going back to my past, experiencing these emotions, but at the same time I'm being present. So it kind of makes that distinction, and then it helps me kind of work downwards in terms of this incident that I face today is reminding me of what happened to me, 16, 17 years old. So kind of putting all that together, like, three things that helped me on my darkest days. It's kind of like my faith, my family, and then some type of like introspection and release. And so that release and introspection comes in different ways. Sometimes like it's music, art, or going on walks. But like combining all those together, I'm able to kind of pull like a golden nugget where I can learn from it, and kind of like then use it to my own benefit, because I've kind of also accepted in terms of like my own journey, like I have to turn like my biggest, not weaknesses, but like my most painful moments into like my superpowers, right? So I do get, OCD, anxiety, a lot of depression, but then I kind of look at it like, hey, you're just really thoughtful, you really care about something, and that's what's coming out of it. So just trying to, learn ways to kind of put it in a positive perspective. But, again, I'm really thankful to be a part of this space. And funny thing is, like, this is the first time I've opened up talking about this stuff. So, thankful to everybody here.
Thankful for you too. Oh my gosh. Thanks for sharing. Yeah.
Hi everybody. Where do I begin? Firstly, I'm so touched by all of your stories, and I'm really, really sorry for your losses. I have 3 children, so the number 3 again coming up. I know Mina through Athletes for Hope, and I'm beginning to work with them in the mental health space. I didn't know what this, obviously I knew Kim and your loss, but I didn't know who would be on here. It was literally a last minute thing. I'm going through a different type of loss or grieving process. I'm separating from my husband, um, which is weird to say the least. Um, but I think, well, I've put it together. I think a lot of my background kind of has been surrounded by death. I initially started working in hospices and hospitals, so 3 years in hospice care. I'm an energy therapist, which a lot of people don't really know what that is, but it's basically a therapy which is connection to the bioenergy field. My training was in Reiki. It was something which I wasn't really interested in doing a course in Reiki. I was always doing healing. My mother was a healer, all this kind of stuff. And I had a very um, big connection with energy, human behavior, all this kind of thing when I was a kid. Knowing that I had these skills, I ended up just seeing a newsreel on a segment on the 6 o'clock news. That there were healers in this hospital, which was just up the street from me. I ended up knowing that was my purpose and ended up working there. I worked in a hospital for 1 year, which was incredible, working in all different units. Ended up working a lot in intensive care units, so a lot of seeing a lot of people passing away, life support machines, working with the families, helping them to cope with the transition process, and knew that end of life care was something that I wanted to really invest myself into. Had a beautiful 3 years in London doing this, and met my husband who's German. I live in Munich now in Germany. He's German, so kind of left all that behind. Didn't know what to do when I came here because I couldn't speak the language after having 2 more children, and ended up working in the athlete space just by accident. It was obviously fate, but not anything that I was really interested in. Just had a client one day who was an athlete, and then recognized immediately there was no support in this area, or not a lot of support, especially when it came to the mind-body connection, how you cope with stress, how you cope with pressure. So knowing that my qualifications were good enough to kind of spread the word, I'm also a teacher in that area. I set on a mission to help as many athletes as I could to be able to connect with themselves emotionally, physically, mentally, to be able to heal themselves to a certain degree by connecting to life force energy, chi energy, ki energy, God energy, bioenergy, which is the scientific term for this. And spent 7 years doing that now. Mostly a lot online, but a lot also with one-to-one clients based in Germany and Europe. So a lot of them are American athletes who are based in Europe. And I found the number of issues that came with that were tremendous, that people, obviously you as parents would know if you have overseas or kids that have been away, and the athletes here that have played away, been away from home. It's traumatizing. Which brought another level of learning how to help people in this space. During the pandemic, I got together with some of my athlete clients who had become really good friends, and we developed the athlete emergency room. So it was about, I think, 12 to 15 former athletes from all different sports, mainly elite, so NWSL through to NFL. And we really wanted to help athletes. I obviously, I'm not an athlete. I don't know about that, but I knew enough by that time to know what was needed. And then everyone else had a case of mental health issues or injury issues or whatever it may be, to be able to counsel and help people. A lot of the people that were on that platform were former clients who had then gone on to do work or get training in mindfulness and breath work or whatever. And it was wonderful for many years, and we've only just recently had to put a stop to everything. However, I think coming back to connection and, you know, for the parents especially, and the people that have lost people. I lost my dad a couple of years ago. It was the first time I've ever lost anyone. And it was very strange because we were estranged mutually. We realized we had nothing in common for many, many years. Didn't have a close connection. But I think what was very interesting about that was the waves of energy, the waves of grief that unexpectedly affected me. And the grieving process that came from that, and the connection that I had with him after he died, which was really incredible. But I found water to be, you know, one of the wonderful things. You know, I'm a water sign as well, so I love water. And I know that the connection with water, I think, comes a lot from, you know, when we were in the womb, we were surrounded by water. It was a very safe space. And we tend to kind of go back to that when we're feeling, you know, these anxieties or stresses or whatever. Breath work is what I love. And I know that even now, you know, while you all talking and I'm thinking about all the things that happened to me, which is nowhere in comparison to what you guys have been through, I'm breathing. And I think when I'm teaching people how to breathe, which I'm teaching a lot myself, I'm good at saying it, but doing it is another thing, is just following that breath and remembering that that is life. You know, if we didn't have it, we're not here. And I think that brings such a wonderful sense of appreciation and gratitude. And it kind of goes outwards as well to the people that we've lost in some shape or form. And I think as individuals as well, my third thing, everyone has a grieving process. Everyone finds their tools. And I think when you have that set of tools for whatever day it may be, you can pick it up. Is that the one? No, I put it back down again. Is that the one? Put it back down again. So yeah, that's me and that's my three. And thank you so much for having me on here and for sharing. And thank you, Mina. Send you a big hug.
Hello, everyone. I'm so sorry I can't have my camera on for this meeting. I'm actually going in between classes right now, but I definitely wanted to come on here and kind of share my perspective as well. It's incredibly encouraging and amazing to kind of hear everyone's story as on a more professional scale. I'm currently a high schooler playing competitive field hockey in California, which is absolutely unheard of. But yeah, I wanted to definitely come on this call and make sure that I hear everyone's stories and, of course, give gratitude and thanks to those that we no longer have. But yeah, a little bit about my perspective and my journey as kind of like a high schooler who plays a sport and my hurdles in mental health. I think one of the biggest things that I've come to recognize and realize is that as a high schooler, there's not a lot of support outlets for us. And on top of being kind of an awkward teen going through everything, I think another contribution that kind of adds more difficulty and turbulence to our journey is that we're really scared to ask for help. And I think that's one of the biggest issues that currently I see my peers go through, that I personally go through. And as somebody who plays on a competitive level and on a national level, I've seen it, I've been through it, I've seen my friends go through it, and I've sadly lost friends that couldn't deal and have buckled under down the pressure. And I wasn't during that time. I would definitely say I was in training, I was in season, and I was getting pressure from my own coaches. And when I've gone through those losses, I wasn't able to internalize and process what was truly happening because everyone around me was moving 10 times faster. They were improving. And so everything, I think, collectively at one point definitely made me go through a really rough patch in terms of how I perceive things and what my perception of healthy is, I would say. And when I was able to find AFH, I think that was when I really changed my perspective on mental health for sure. For instance, I think one of the times I was going most recently, I was in the East Coast. I'm originally from SoCal in the East Bay, so it is quite a distance. When I was in the East Coast for a month, I was doing trainings and camps with national athletes and international athletes and coaches. And there was a lot of pressure overall for me to, one, train and show my skills, and the other for for college coaches to see how well I play, because I'm currently going through the recruiting process, which in and of itself is such a stressful process to go through for anybody. I lost my grandmother, who I was really close with, and I think that was one of my first experience with loss in terms of somebody that I was really close to in my family. So that was definitely really hard for me because I couldn't be there for her while she was in the hospital, and I think that was what really broke me inside. But my coaches, when I told that to my coaches, it wasn't really receptive as this, like um, it wasn't processed in the same way for them. They told me that I could take a 30-minute breather break and then go back out on the field to do my beeper test kind of thing. And I think hearing that really kind of, I don't know, I didn't I think it was then that I kind of realized that something's off, like this isn't healthy. And I realized that when we're in a really high pressure toxic environment, it's really hard for us to realize that we're in such a unhealthy environment until we kind of remove ourselves from it. And luckily, I'm able to have that support system from my parents, who are really hands on and making sure that I'm okay while giving me as much as support as they can. They've never played a sport, so it's definitely an interesting mix. But yeah, I would say that because I have incredibly awful asthma, that has also negatively impacted my mental health. And I ended up pushing myself more than I can because I pretend to think that I don't have my diagnosis. And I think that really also contributed to my struggles. And so, three things that really helped me was one, breathing exercises. My peers and I do them all the time, as if they're like only 5 seconds to a minute. They really help. They're kind of in intervals when we're in really high stressed and really scared, I guess, environments where we have to really do well for this one certain drill because this college coach is watching. And so I'd say that's definitely a huge takeaway for me. And the other one would probably be like being in spaces like this where I get to hear everyone's perspectives and their journeys as athletes. I think that is so incredibly healthy one and helpful. As a high schooler who doesn't have so many outlets and resources allotted to them in terms of mental health, because it's just so stigmatized. My peers don't talk about it at all. People think it's weird, and it's not something to be conversed with normally, which is crazy to me to hear in being in high school. But I get it, because it's not like, I guess we stigmatize the term so much that not everyone feels comfortable using it as and treating it as such a serious topic. And I completely understand that side as well. But yeah, breathing definitely helped me, in being able to be in spaces like AFH provided with Mina, and being able to talk with people who gone through similar experiences, and to basically story tell is just such an amazing opportunity for me to be a part of. And I've told my friends, like, this is basically what we do when we talk to each other, but on a more kind of broader spectrum. And they love the idea as well, and it's so impactful and helpful. And I think that kind of sums up everything that's helped me over this past year that was particularly difficult in my personal life and academic and, of course, athletic journey. So thank you so much for allowing me to be in this space. And I'm just really happy to hear everyone's journeys and experiences.
Thank you, Abigail, for sharing.
Yeah, and bringing such an important voice, the youth in high school. So thank you for representing that voice. I know that Kim, you had another meeting after this, so I just want to be respectful of everyone's time. But thank you so much, everyone, for coming and joining in this special room. And I'll leave it to you, Kim, if you want to say any last words.
Well, thank you for your strength. You have no idea how much, like, hearing your words, hearing your stories, how much it helps me. And Rohan, I can't believe you've never shared your story until today. That just hit. And I am grateful for all of you. And I do wish you could have known Tyler, just like our other moms on here that, are losing or lost their daughters. What we're doing, the work that we're doing, really keeps our children alive and their story and their legacy. And it's important. I'm just glad that I can share this path with all of you and Mina. you're just a beautiful person that really, truly cares about other people. And I'm grateful to have you in my life. Mhm. So good. Thank you. Love you too.
Yeah, love you. Gina, I know that you unmuted.
Oh, I just wanted to say this was all beautiful. Thank you guys all for sharing, and Rohan for being the only guy here today with all our female, energy. Thank you so much. And yeah, I mean, this was just beautiful. And Kim, we love you. We're hugging you big today virtually. We're here for you always. Thank you all. This was just wonderful. Thank you.
It was. Right. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.